The year is 1959. IP Man is shown practicing his martial arts. He lives in his house with his wife and a younger son. Su Long comes to IP's house in order to qualify himself as IP's student, but he tells him to come back later. Su tells him about his agility. IP sits on his couch and throws a bunch of cigarettes toward him. Su manages to kick off all the cigarettes quite swiftly. Afterward, he stands up quietly and opens the door. Confused, Su leaves. Meanwhile, at school, IP's son is seen fighting with his classmate Fong. Their teacher stops the fight and calls their parents. IP and his wife reaches the school, but Fong's father didn't make it. Fong seemed hungry, so IP's wife took him home for dinner. While the family was having food, someone knocks on the door. IP opens it and sees Chung, Fong's father. Both boys then apologize and Chung and IP introduce themselves to each other. Later, it is revealed that Chung already knew about IP and is jealous of him being the best in martial arts. Then an underground fight is shown where Chung is fighting with another fighter for some ransom. This fight is hosted by Sang. Frank, a big mafia leader who actually organizes all of these underground fights, calls Sang and orders him to vacate the city school. The next morning, IP and Chung again meets at the school, where it's revealed that both of them used to have the same martial art teacher. Thenceforth, Chung challenges IP to a friendly match, and he accepts the duel. Afterwards, the school bell rings and all the students comes out. While on the other hand, Sang and his men comes to the principal's office and asks the headmaster to sign off the school property papers. The principal declines, on which Sang and his men beats him. IP enters the scene and he fights off everyone around, after which he calls the police, but nothing productive happens. Sang drives out everyone and closes the school's door. IP and his student breaks the door locks and he decides to guard the school on his own. Later that night, when IP and his students were protecting the school, Sang and his men enter the property. A heavy fight breaks out and Sang's men set the classroom on fire and kidnap the principal. IP tries to fight them off, but due to their immense number, he is not able to. Soon Chung joins and they both fights off them together. Everyone says their thanks to IP, while he pays his regards to Chung. Later, IP's wife tries to spend some time with him, but he tells her about him being required for the school security and leaves. On the other hand, Chung and his son goes to a vacant building to buy it for Chung's martial arts school. But soon he finds out he doesn't have enough money. He hopelessly leaves the place with his son. IP's wife feels excruciating pain in her stomach, so she goes to a pharmacist to take some medication. Sang's teacher comes to IP and they both visit Sang. His teacher tries to make him understand whatever he is doing is wrong. Sang badmouths his teacher, making him angry. IP's wife again feels an enormous amount of pain in her stomach. She goes to a hospital and is thrilled to know that she has a tumor in her stomach. She then decided not to tell her husband or son about this. Chung is again seen fighting and Sang is also there. Impressed by Chung's fighting skills, he goes to him and offers him a ton of money to join him. Chung needed money at that time to open his martial arts school, so he joined hands with him. The next morning, Chung goes to Sang's master's place, where he beats the life out of him. Later, a nurse calls IP and tells him about the incident. It is revealed that this call was also done by Sang. IP visits the master and he tells him that he wasn't the one who asked the hospital to call him. Sang goes to the school and started kidnapping the students, including Chung and IP's son. IP's student tries to stop them, but all in vain. He tells him to bring their master to the shipyard in 2 hours, otherwise he will sell the kids. IP arrives at the school where his teacher tells him about the incident. IP then goes to the shipyard, but is not able to do anything. Chung enters and asks Sang to free his son. Sang tells his men to leave the boy and tells Chung that he didn't know Fong was his son. Chung leaves. Sang then asks IP to fight off 11 of his men if he wants his son back. Fong begs his father to save his friends as well. IP begins to fight Sang's men, and Sumi is joined by Chung. They both then fights off Sang's men together. Soon the police come and begins to arrest Sang's men. However, Sang manages to escape the arrest. IP goes back to his house and his wife cries happily to see her husband and son safe. She hugs her child and then tells IP about her condition. They then visits the doctor, who tells her that it is the last stage of her cancer and that she has only 6 months more to live. This upsets IP so much. He begins to spend some more time with his wife afterwards. A police officer comes to Frank and asks him to stop his ongoing activities for some time. Later, Frank hires another boxer and asks him to finish off IP. As IP and his wife were leaving a clinic, A boxer enters the elevator with them. He judges his intentions and they both fight. IP prevents his wife from getting hurt and made the fighter run away. After this, IP pays a visit to the police, where the officer tells him to stay away from Frank and his men. IP feels a need to visit Frank, so he stops by his office and tells him to leave him alone. Frank challenges him to stay in a duel with him for only 3 minutes, and if he wins, IP won't be bothered by his men ever again. The challenge begins, and after a heavy fight, a tie happens in between them. Frank then decides to leave IP alone. On the other hand, Chum buys off a place to open a martial arts school. There he finds a newspaper about IP and his excellency in martial arts. He pays a visit to the editor and tells him that he is also a very good martial artist. Then he offers the editor some money to post him in the paper as well, but he rejects. Agitated by this, Chum gets up and fights another martial arts teacher marvelously. The editor takes his pictures and publishes them in the newspaper. Later, Chum fights more and more martial art fighters and wins every time. This improves his image in the paper day by day. In one big gathering, filled with media men, Chum claims to be better than IP. He openly challenges him for a fight, but he pays no heed as he is busy spending quality time with his wife. Moreover, IP goes to Su Long and asks him to teach him how to dance. Su tells him that he rejected him before. On hearing this, he reveals that he didn't open the door for Su to leave, but to tell him he was selected as his student. The day of the match comes and everyone is waiting for IP to show, but he is busy dancing with his wife. She suddenly feels lightheaded and falls down on the ground. IP calls an ambulance and admits her into a hospital. Everyone declares Chum the winner. IP's wife knows he isn't fighting Chung because of her. She feels bad for IP and writes a letter to Chung for a rematch. Then she requests him to have a fight against Chung as her last wish. Later, IP goes to Chum's academy with his wife. He makes her sit outside, enters the arena, and they both then started the fight using some poles. Soon the pole breaks, so they took out their swords. Chum tries to stab IP, but he successfully halts his attack. Chum's weapon drops, seeing it, IP also throws away his knives, and they begin to fight with their bare hands. Chum then pricks IP's eye and his vision blurs, but he still manages to throw a 1-inch punch at Chung. In pain, Chung tends to sit and is not able to stand up. Accepting his defeat, Chung breaks the board on which it was engraved that he is the Grandmaster of Martial Arts. On leaving, IP stops and tells Chung that sometimes it is important to spend your time with your loved ones rather than fighting others in a match. His wife smiles while listening to this. Later on, it is revealed that in 1960, his wife died. IP is then seen sitting on his chair with a cup of tea in his hand. He looks at his wife's photo, remembering all of his time that he has spent with her. At the end of the movie, it is shown that IP made his son into his student and then left him behind to continue his legacy. Subscribe to see more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.